Hey there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to another Football Talks Power Rankings edition, and there were a lot of shifts here for what I consider to be a mostly boring week, save for a few highlights to note. There was an upset of the week that happened, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's start as always with Tier 4, teams 25 through 32, and a team that has risen a bit, the Indianapolis Colts. Why? Because they got to play a Houston Texans team without Deshaun Watson, which I'll get to that in a moment, because it'll be sooner than you think. But they were able to win. It was an ugly game, to be honest. At the end, it looked like a coin flip, but it showed to you that if you had Deshaun Watson in that game, it would have been a much different scenario, but you had Tom Savage. And before people start saying, oh, why don't they sign Kaepernick? Why not them or the Packers? I really doubt he'll make much of a difference. If I'm going off the last time I saw the dude on the field where he got less than what? I think he got four completed passes, maybe less. I don't know if it was 4 completed or 4 attempted in that game against Chicago, but yeah, I'm not sure if Kaepernick will be an instant savior for a franchise. I don't know. I think he needs to be fixed because he was not that good the last time I saw him. Anyway, that was really the only team to know for Tier 4. Let's just jump into Tier 3 as teams 17 through 24, and the highlight is the Texans. My biggest drop, or it's the easiest drop of anybody. I mean, I've dropped them from 11 to 23. It's a big drop, and I just expect them to keep going lower and lower depending on how they do, especially considering they're going to play against the Rams, which, if Deshaun Watson were there, that would have been a game to watch for me. But now it's not even a game to watch. It is just, if you're an LA fan, okay guys, Dodgers fans, if there's any condolences to your loss to the Astros in the World Series, at least you can watch the LA Rams eviscerate the Houston Texans. Mind you, you're not playing the Texans at their best, but if it's any consolation, you can at least have that. So, enjoy that. Still, no World Series for you, though. So, I guess we'll have that last laugh. But either way, the Texans are done. I mean, they were, to me, even with Watson there, it's like, maybe they can squeak into the playoffs, and I wanted them to, so that way they don't give the Browns a high draft pick, but if you want my prediction on their record, I can only see them winning 2 more games, and they're 3-5. So guess what? 5-11 is on the way, and the Browns are going to have 2 top 10 draft picks most likely. Anyway, next team to note. Oh boy, the Jets. They surprised me. At the same time, however, I don't think I moved them that much. In fact, I had them. Yeah, no, that's a good rise. 24 to 18, a rise of 6. Good for them. Also good for the Raiders, since they were the 22 to 19. Not as big of a jump since you beat the Dolphins, but hey, you take it. But the Jets are going to be a couple interesting scenarios in the next few weeks. They're going to play a Bucs team soon that does not have Jameis Winston, most likely. If I recall, the Jets are going to... actually, it's this week, my bad. It is this week, so you have that fortunate scenario, and the Jets could get into Tier 2, perhaps, depending on how the week shakes up, but my God, I mean, I only dropped the Falcons 1 spot because, to be honest, I'm not sure if I can drop them through some of these teams, but come on, man. Maybe I should have dropped them, but I'm just thinking, are they worse? I mean, they beat the Jets. They're not playing the Raiders, and they barely beat the Bears, so I'm not sure if I put them above those two, because right now the Bears look like a little bit of a better team now than they were before. I think with Trubisky they might actually beat the Falcons, but you blew a 10-0 lead in Julio Jones dropping an easy touchdown pass that would have brought you in this game. In fact, it probably would have won you that game. Oh boy, if you're a Falcons fan, you just realized, yeah, that one Super Bowl was our only chance. But once again, the Patriots, the dynasty killers, as I call them, which whenever Tom Brady's done and Belichick's done, but more likely Belichick, I'm gonna make a good project about that with that title. So my title, don't steal. Anyway, move on to Tier 2. Tier 2 is where things get much more convoluted. We have teams that rose back into Tier 2. The Lions and the Chargers, respectively, who were actually 17 and 18 last week, and now they are 15 and 16. So the Lions rose up a little more. The Chargers they only got bumped up because of teams dropping to the bottom, like the Texans and the Falcons. So that's the only reason they moved up a bit. But to me, the Lions are a note because they they didn't just beat a Packers team; they thrashed them. Do not let the box score fool you. It was a blowout. The 2 touchdowns were in garbage time. Even when the announcers were trying to say, "We got a ball game," no, you never did. Nobody ever did. I mean, that Packers stadium was full, but it was so quiet. It was, even when good plays were being made by the Packers, unless it was like a huge down the field play, I could drop a needle on the ground and you'd hear it. That's how dead silent it was. Unless you were a Lions fan there was not a peep from the crowd. But anyway, good on the Lions, and here's something to note. The Lions have 4 very winnable games. They get to play Cleveland this week. I think they also have to play... They got to play go to Chicago, which that's winnable. Home to Minnesota, which that's going to be the toughest one, but it is winnable for Thanksgiving. And then you got to go to Baltimore for Monday Night Football, I want to say. Another one. This is going to be their 3rd Monday Night Football. It seems Monday Night Football loves Detroit, and well, they're 2-0 with them, so good thing on them. But right now they could go 3-1 minimum, in my opinion, from those, assuming they don't blow it. The only game I could see them possibly losing is Chicago or Baltimore, but yeah, a good chance to just basically win out. And don't let this thing fool you. Do not let the schedule or the win-loss ratio. It should say 4-4. They just the website ignored the Lions' record. They ignored messing with. They are 4-4. They are 500. But at the end of this, they could be 8-4. And well, look out. We got a frisky team, and they're just about as back as where they used to be. Titans getting a good win over the Ravens. It was very ugly, mind you. But even so, the Titans are actually... Did I drop? I'm not sure where I put them last week. Oh no, they only moved up 1 spot. It was just a bare minimum game, but that's again because some teams it wasn't that big of a win in my opinion. But hey, you're in the division race because to me it's looking very likely we're gonna have a big showdown between Jacksonville and Tennessee. I'm calling it now. Titans hosting the Jags is going to be the final Sunday Night Football game. It's either that or Philly and Dallas, but I really hope not, but it probably will because 1, bigger markets, 2, Al and Chris absolutely love sucking on NFC's dick because they love the AFC or the NFC East so much. They would if they could have every NFC East game every week, they would be in ecstasy. Trust me. Either way, though, regardless, the Titans moved up a bit. The Bills dropped. They dropped the ball here. They went from 9 to 13, dropping only 4 spots, which that doesn't seem like a big deal, but come on. You were in the precipice of getting into Tier 1. You were already in the top 10. You know, you could take you seriously. Just beat the Jets. Nope. You had to drop it to New York, and not to say they're out of the race or anything, but it's just looking like 8-8 is an inevitability, and they have a tough order for this week. The only silver lining is that they have this at home. So Bills Mafia needs to really step up and give the Saints a tough time, which we're going to actually mention the Saints a bit. Anyway, here we go, near top 10, but one thing to note, the Seahawks, you had to drop one to the... I wanted to put Seattle in the top 10, but Washington beat them, and I think Washington is just... They're getting healthier, and that game was not easy. That game was ugly. It was a pure... if you were into defensive slugfests, you got the game of the year for you. But the Seahawks, man, they could not play 2-minute defense. Then they just could not play, or hurry-up defense, I should say. They couldn't do anything at the end, and it's just unfortunate for them. For the 12s, you know this is perhaps your last chance of barring a small to major rebuild of the defense, because to me that defense is starting to get older. Your run game is getting battered for what little there is, and you're just kind of glad that you won that other game against the Texans, because if you lost that, and then especially hearing that the Texans lose Watson days later, you're just so grateful. You could be 4-4 right now, and you do not want to be in that situation considering the Rams are 6-2. You have to keep up with them. Anyway, another note, the Chiefs. Now, nobody said anything, but I'm pretty sure if you got a bunch of Chiefs fans that say, hey, Why the hell did you have us at 5? This is why, because your team looks super flawed. Some people still kept them in the top 10. I decided to wait for a game that they're going to drop that they should have won. And, well, this was one of them. This was that one. You should have beat Dallas. I know they weren't expecting Zeke, but at this point you should just assume that Ezekiel Elliott will always play because he somehow keeps getting, like, he basically delays the courts to keep going. And, yeah. So now here's punishment for the Chiefs. I dropped them only 4 spots. They're still in the top 10 just solely by their record. And I want to say they have a good enough game that they should win. Let's see. Are they on bye? I'm not sure. I think they might be on bye, actually. I'm going to make sure. Yes, they're on bye. Never mind. So, hey, it's the bye week. You're fine, guys. You get to rest up and get your act together because you're going to need it, because there's going to be some tough games that may look easy in theory, but you might slip up knowing your rate. Anyway, speaking of the Cowboys, good on them, because this was a game I didn't expect them to win. And, well, Zeke, I don't know how long he is going to play. I feel like it's an inevitability, unlike, say, Tom Brady's situation, where you could actually prove it wasn't that the balls weren't really deflated. But, you know, Goodell's like, yeah, I don't want Brady to win, so he doesn't get a ring. You know, give the Super Bowl trophy to somebody else, to a different market, to help our ratings. But no, Tom Brady said F you to them because he is the dynasty killer. In this case, he's also the commissioner killer because, yeah, you suspended him for what? Just to get wrecked at the end. Anyway, so beyond that, the Panthers are back in the top 10, or not in the top 10, into tier 1. Now they're in number 7. A good win against the Falcons team, even though the Falcons team blew it, you could say. But at least, hey, the Panthers had to do some. Considering they lost Kelvin Benjamin, they traded him away to Buffalo, who also really needs him. It's a good win because considering you just gave away a really good piece of your puzzle. And, well, it's going to get a little more interesting considering the games they have to play this week, especially since they have a Monday Night Football game against the Dolphins, which should be easy, but who knows, that one may not be a gimme. Saints, on the other hand, crushed the Buccaneers. In fact, they injured Jameis Winston. In fact, that game, oh boy, Mike Evans got suspended. Somehow Mike Evans gets suspended, but A.J. Green literally does what Andre Johnson did to that Finnegan guy years ago. And somehow that wasn't a suspension. You know, punching a man is like, nah, you don't get a suspension. But you push a guy, it's like, oh yeah, that's a suspension. Or you look at a referee ugly, it's like, oh, that's a suspension. How dare you, you ugly, you horrible person. You're a criminal. But okay, guys, you sure have your values set. I mean, you do allow certain wife beaters, and in some cases, pregnant wife beaters, to play still. It's like, okay, you have your morals straight, NFL. Oh well. Anyway, a team that actually did rise a bit with the utter thrashing of the Giants. You didn't just beat a bad team. You crushed them to the Shadow Realm with you. The Rams looked good. I was actually tempted to drop the Vikings a bit, but actually, well, I'll mention that in a second. But the Rams just took care of business. They look so good. I know everyone wants to give Carson Wentz the MVP award, but I'm starting to consider Jared Goff a bit, and especially considering what you expected of him, what we all did. I think that's hell of impressive. I'm pretty sure that Carson Wentz is going to get it, even if he literally never throws another touchdown pass again. He's still going to get it, just because, well, Eagles, NFC East. It's like what I say, if you had a Cowboys player who didn't do as effective as another player, like say for Defensive Player of the Year, I actually have Glover Quinn for me so far, but DeMarcus Lawrence is playing so good, I know he'll win because Cowboys, but I don't know. Anyway, Vikings, I put the Vikings over the Saints simply because they beat the Saints week 1. I know the Saints didn't have their act together, but to me that was just utter thrashing because the Vikings were a complete team at that point. I think sooner or later this Vikings train is going to falter, and it's going to cost them either a division spot or a wild card spot, so no playoffs, but this is a team I could see squeaking in barely or just not at all. Unless Teddy Bridgewater, if he returns and he ends up just becoming the savior. Because if Teddy Bridgewater is as good as he was before the injury, well, now this team's complexion is just very different. Anyway, you might be wondering, why didn't I put the Rams above the Steelers and the Patriots? Everyone does that, but to me, here's the thing. The Patriots have gotten their act together, and since then they've looked pretty good. Now, not all games have been this pretty, but to me, the Patriots have been playing even more tougher teams. They still have to play a tough defense in the Denver Broncos, even though the Broncos got thrashed by the Eagles. I'm just saying I trust the Patriots for consistency's sake, because they've done this for so many years, so it's more so on the track record. And Pittsburgh was on a bye. I typically don't like moving teams, especially at the top, if they're at their bye week, unless it's a really deserving movement change. But to me, I told you, the Steelers are, to me, an AFC championship contender to a Super Bowl contender, because I like their defense. It's not perfect, but it's like what I mentioned before. It's what the Dallas Cowboys should be: bend but don't break. You have enough pieces on the front seven and the secondary. And of course, your offense is just perfect because you have a good running game, because the Steelers have the best running back in the AFC named Le'Veon Bell. And of course, you have Juju, who is a really good complementary player, he just gets open because Antonio Brown is heavily guarded. But yeah, the Patriots and Steelers were both on bye. That's why I also didn't want to move them, because to me, the Rams fans, just be glad you're in the top 5. In fact, after this week, I think it's where you start playing really good teams. I believe week 12 you're going to play the either the Vikings or the Saints, and you got to play them both. You got to play you host the Saints if there's any consolation to that, but you got to go to Minnesota, which is not a fun place to play in. I believe you have to play the Seahawks again. Those are all losable games, but if you are a true Super Bowl contender, you will win at least 2 of those 3 games that I mentioned. Anyway, the last thing to round it out with for this list, number 1, Philly. Come on, man. What should I change with them? Especially considering what they did. If I could give them a higher ranking, I would. Because you just destroyed. I know it was a Brock Osweiler-led Broncos, but come on. That was also a utter thrashing. I mean, to be fair, the Rams did a better disassembling given the box score, but jeez. Especially considering you got Jay Ajayi. The Eagles, to me, like I said, I'm waiting for the playoffs. I'm not even thinking about it right now. I think they're just going to win out most of their games. I think they're going to finish 13-3. You're going to tie with, I mean, to be honest, the game that's going to decide who hosts who is Philly at Seattle. If Philly wins that one, well, now they look like they're a shoo-in for a Super Bowl. I mean, but I'm of the belief for the NFC, it's so stacked right now that even if you're the home team, you're not guaranteed shit. And that's how I feel with Philly right now. I'm just waiting for the postseason. Just start waiting. Get your tickets for that if you can. Start saving up money for that, because for a Philly fan, you have something to smile about for once, because the Philadelphia Phillies in baseball were supposed to be what the Astros were this year, and yet, where are they? It could happen next year, mind you. I mean, the hockey team is bad. I believe it's bad. And, well, basketball, if you're a basketball fan, you're like, okay, we're getting better. We're no finals contender, but hey, it's looking good for a Philly sports fan. It looks like things are shaping up well, especially for the future. Anyway, now that we're done with those, let's talk about the 5 games to note before I let you go. First game. The first game that might shift the power rankings is San Diego and oh god, you see, this is a habit that's hard to break. The LA Chargers with Jacksonville. Now, you could say, in theory, the Jags should just destroy them. On paper, they should. However, the Jags seem to be like the ultimate 8-8 team, where they dominate one week and then drop it the next. And to be honest, the Chargers have always had the Jags' numbers for years. And considering they're coming off a bye, this will be interesting to see how the Chargers can hang with this amazing defense. But we'll find out soon enough now, will we? Next game, Saints at Buffalo. I mentioned this. This game, to me, this is the true game of the week, especially for interconference matchups, because there's a lot of them. And this one, I think the home team, even if you flip this, I would go with whoever the home team was. I'm going with Buffalo on this one. But either way, this should be interesting because the Saints' offense looks so balanced, and the defense is getting better and better. Marshawn Lattimore is a really good corner, like I thought he would be. I didn't think he's no Jalen Ramsey by any means, but he is solid. He does his job efficiently. and that's a good sign. For a Saints fan, you should be excited about this game, because this game may be your game of the year that isn't a division rival. So have fun with that. Next, my third game, Minnesota at Washington. At first, I wasn't going to put this, but then when Washington beat Seattle, now Washington looks primed to get back in the wild card race. Because let's be real, for the Cowboys and the Washington football team, it is very unlikely that a chance for a division crown is happening anytime soon. Especially for Washington, considering you dropped both games to the Eagles. If you had at least taken one, you would have helped this, and now you need Dallas to help win one for you. And that's not happening. To me, that's just not happening, most likely. We'll see, though. I'm not sure. I just need to see if the Cowboys can keep keep the show going. But anyway, Minnesota, now they're going on the road. I mean, they had to come back against Cleveland, so I think that's something to worry about, but who knows? Maybe they'll get their act together. By the way, interesting game for the NFC, no less. My fourth game is going to be, what I will tell you right now, what would have been my fourth game was going to be Houston at the Rams, but with the loss of Watson, that hope is over. So I'll give you another one, another 4 o'clock game. Dallas at Atlanta. With that win against the Chiefs, now Dallas looks like they could easily get a statement win, crushing the NFC champions, and basically putting their playoff hopes, or just hit the big red panic button. To me, I think Atlanta will go to a big lead and then choke that, because that's how they play. They just can't hold a lead for the life of them. And hell, it's just hard for them to win. It seems they don't like it. They don't like the easy way, I guess you could say. Anyway, my fifth game, I guess. I really want to throw a curveball and say, I really wanted to say New England, Denver is the easiest one, but I'm going to give you a bit of a curveball. Going back to the 1 o'clock games. Bengals and Titans. Why? Because to me, this is a game that can be also a bit of a toss-up, just like with Baltimore and Tennessee last week. I think the Bengals might be able to get their act together against this defense. I know some say it's gotten a bit better, but I still don't trust the Titans defense. I don't think I ever will, unless I see a big statement win. This could be it. So on one hand, the Titans can get a statement win and stay in the division race, or they could drop this and possibly give Jacksonville a bigger lead, because they're both 5-3, and right now neither of them are in positions to slack off. But on the other hand, the Bengals, I mean, they are 3-5. They can't make any more mistakes. They might be playing for they're playing for their lives right now, so that's why I think this will be a bit of a struggle. Anyway, that'll do it for this week. If you don't agree with some spots where I put these teams, feel free to chime in the comment section below. Just know, don't be an asshole about it. Be a little bit polite about it. And yeah, we can have a discussion about this. I welcome the discussion, and yeah, I will see you guys for Week 11.